So to your point in terms of war escalation is imminent, yes, we're going to see escalation returning in this continuum, because that road to diplomacy, of which the winner usually holds that path to how are we going to come to a treaty, is not controlled by the United States.
He ends up talking about a lot of things about the state of the U.S. military that I haven't heard elsewhere before, and it was really interesting.
At this time.
Like and subscribe.
I don't see anything necessarily changing that in terms of what military might can be brought to the table. And this administration has demonstrated either the inability.
About why Levitt resigned, I think she saw the writing on the wall in terms of what's going to happen in terms of popularity of this administration. This administration, the damage politically from the Iran war hasn't even begun to happen. I think the best way to just show this quickly, the start of this video.
We're bringing the prices way down. Look at what's happening, coming way down.
This is what Trump is currently saying.
And after we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States.
Yeah, that is what the Trump administration is still saying. How will his base react when it ends up, everyone recognizes it's a loss, and diesel prices are hitting new all-time highs again. They're up twice since the start of the war. A lot of political damages in the pipeline for the Trump administration, and I think that's why Levitt is bowing out to exit gracefully before the shit hits the fan, is my opinion. That's my opinion.
The unwillingness, or both, to negotiate and be diplomatic. So we are in this for the long haul. I believe we will see this conflict go until at least January, February of 2029 during the administration and the change of whomever comes into the next presidency, or even longer. Look at Afghanistan. 4 presidents.
Yeah. I think the one thing he's not taking into account is, long-term, the Strait of Hormuz cannot remain closed forever. China would go to war. I'm just saying it straight out. If 6 months from now, if the Strait of Hormuz are not open, China will be considering going to war to force the United States out of the Gulf so that the Strait of Hormuz can open. Because it's, yes, you can use reserves, strategic reserves for 6 months, maybe a year most, but no. After that, you're going to have some serious problems.
$400 billion, and in the end of it, we replace the Taliban with the Taliban. Iraq. You know, I think it's interesting right now as we talk about this conflict and the USS Abraham Lincoln. And people talk about the Abraham Lincoln and think, oh, conditions, they're not that bad, this and that. Let me remind everybody, the USS Abraham Lincoln is the aircraft carrier that George Bush landed on and said, mission accomplished, in 2003. That's the same aircraft carrier. And that aircraft carrier was 20 years old then. This aircraft carrier, the USS Lincoln, that everybody thinks, oh, advanced technology, this and that, it was designed in 1983, set sail or hit the seas in 1989. It's been at sea longer than you've been alive, Mario, or about the same. And that aircraft carrier that we're now having these issues with, and we think that that's going to defeat Iran's asymmetric capability? No. And what are we sending to replace it? The USS George H.W. Bush, which was also commissioned and designed in 1983, hit the shores a little bit later in...
That's why I often say the U.S. has a legacy military, built back when we had a manufacturing sector, most part. Yes, there are some aircraft carriers we made more recently, but a lot of what we're using in terms of equipment is decades old.
92, but we don't have the most advanced technology going to fight these wars. So that's why we sit our aircraft carriers off in the Persian Gulf instead of fighting directly. And we're not going to win this war with missiles. And this war is going to drag on. That I am very confident of.
What's the most recent American aircraft carrier that set sail? What's the most?
I think 2017.
Modern one that the U.S. has.
So those are in the ports right now, if you will. They actually haven't. So that you have a design date. You have a commissioning date, and then you have its sale date. The important piece is the design date, because as it's being built, they're not doing add-ons. It's not like you're having a car made where you're like, hey, can I add the leather seats? No, you You rig it, you ride it, you bought what you get. So I think
I keep saying we need to send like 5,000 Army tech specialists to Ukraine to learn drone fare. I actually agree with you completely there, Gata. We should be doing it. U.S. military is not adapting to drone warfare at the speed it should. Like, just look at what happened to the IDF against Lebanon and its drones in Hezbollah. They lost so many tanks. I'm afraid that there'll be the same situation if the U.S. ground troops go up against Iran, because we have not yet adapted to the era of drone warfare.
I want to be sure I'm correct, because there's Nimitz class, there's Eisenhower class, and they're different in terms of nuclear, non-nuclear, flat top, or the newer where you see the aircraft carriers that have the elevated decks to get shorter aircraft. So let me see the latest aircraft carrier for the
Take your time.
US.
By the way, there's a sailor on the Lincoln just posted an image of the food they're having.
The Ford,
now.
the USS Gerald Ford, the one that had the laundry room.
Yes.
Really?
Hit the seas in 2017. Apparently, they didn't update the laundry system.
Do you think it was? You think it was a miss? It was an attack, though, don't you? Yeah.
Yes, of course, it was not a.
I saw pictures of what it looks like. Should have kept them. The entire side of the ship is like blown out. That was not a laundry fire.
Laundry room fire. Anybody that believes it was a laundry room fire, I've got beachfront property in Arizona to sell you.
Everyone keeps selling me beachfront property in the last month.
Okay, this is what they're eating in the aircraft carrier off the coast of Iran.
It's an American joke to where
I know,
it's a
I know
classic
the joke.
to, like, I got a bridge to sell you, and you go see it, and it's like in Arizona, and you're like, a bridge over what? And you already bought it. So yeah, if you believe that the USS Gerald Ford,
I think that's rice. I don't know what that is, though.
took on a 30-hour prolonged laundry room fire in the midst of a missile war.
Oh, there's nothing in the world that's worse than bad beans. Powdered beans is... Oh, I can't even eat powdered beans. Had that once when I went on a wilderness trip, whatever. One of the food stuffs they had is powdered beans. I went hungry at dinner when they had the powdered beans.
I'm sorry, you have bought your ticket on the Darwin Express.
That's not an American saying.
I made that up for you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
About targeting Russian leadership and use a resulting vacuum to negotiate for for Ukraine. A problem with that is the hardliners. Putin is the moderate. The hardliners are under him. Look at what happened in Iran. You take out supreme leaders, now you have the hardliners coming into power. You take out Putin, hardliners come to power in Russia, then you absolutely have war between Russia and Europe. Because they start hitting drone factories that are the factories in like Russia, drone factories in France, Germany, Italy that are making drones. Yeah, it becomes a huge mess. And besides, they did try that. They tried to assassinate Putin last December. It did not work, and that's why Russians aren't in the mood to negotiate anymore.
Because Darwin is Australian. I appreciate it. So what's so that's the food. Sorry, what's the food on the link?
War has a way of bringing a country together, and Iran is actually a perfect example of that. We took out so many leaders, but with a foreign enemy rallying the military together and the political leadership, they coalesce. Like, take away end the war. Yes, maybe there'll be some chaos after that, but during war, taking out the leadership, I don't think it's ever worked to create chaos sufficient to bring down a country. Like, there's never been a country that collapses just by bombing.
Lincoln, they legit said we mix things together, and that was everything being offered. Not the what I'll eat. This was a scoop of everything, and beans were some of the worst I tasted, even with any salt, pepper, hot sauce I added.
That's right. Yeah. So let's consider life on the Lincoln. I've already said. Again, I'm going to hit facts, and then
imagine eating shitty food day in and day out, stuck on an aircraft carrier where you don't have internet or a way to communicate with the world via phone, because this is a military ship. You can't have, when 5,000 people on board, you can't have just soldiers calling home every time. Be an intelligence nightmare. So, oh my God. So cut off from the world, just eating bad food and day in and day out.
Kind of give my opinion from 25 years of experience from being in the most austere and harsh conditions. In one of my deployments to Afghanistan, when we were working with the militia in the mountains of Tora Bora, We lived in a redesigned in a refurbished chicken coop in the village because we had nowhere to.
I will say that taking out leadership can work in some circumstances. If I can't think of like some there you have where everything's structured around leader, like Saddam Hussein. If we could have actually taken out Saddam Hussein instead of going to war with Iraq, maybe that would have worked. But he was a very paranoid man, and taking him out, I think, wasn't really an option.
To live within the walls of the compound.
Was there chickens there?
Well, we had to find a place for them to live so we could use that space. So the chickens kept thinking that was still their place. So
Besides, I think that Ukraine has seriously several times tried to assassinate Putin. They just haven't succeeded so far. He is very heavily guarded. He lives at the Kremlin, inside the fortress that is the Kremlin, and with insane air defenses around Moscow. It's just not easy to take out Putin.
every morning you'd be getting up and there'd be a chicken standing on top of the coffee maker, and you're like, well, it's
wait. That sounded fun.
chicken coop in the village. In one of my deployments to Afghanistan, when we were working with the militia in the mountains of Tora Bora, we lived in a redesigned in a refurbished chicken coop in the village because we had nowhere to live within the
A refurbished chicken coop.
walls of the compound.
Was there chickens there?
Well, we had to find a place for them to live so we could use that space. So the chickens kept thinking that was still their place. So every morning you'd be getting up and there'd be a chicken standing on top of the coffee maker, and you're like, well, you were here first. And the chicken was like, well, this was promised to me 3,000 years ago. And you're like, oh, I guess I war.
Where did this come from? That was epic.
This coffee maker was promised me 3,000 years ago.
So it's like I don't want to piss off the chicken, but I've been in some pretty austere places, and I've also been in submarines because in special operations I was on a
It was great.
underwater special operations team. So we actually deployed from a submarine, deployed from a at depth submarine, like the Navy SEALs, because we share that mission set. So I've seen life on a submarine. I've seen life on an aircraft carrier.
How long did you
I've seen
spend
life
on the submarine?
bases. About 3 weeks, and boy,
I heard
get out.
stuff.
it's
At least on an aircraft carrier, you can go out to the deck and get some fresh air. Not on a submarine. That's really being a sardine.
there's a reason these deployment lengths are different. Donald Trump saying, "Oh, 8 months, 9 months, not even enough yet." Well, okay, Commodore Bone Spurs. What about the sailors on the ship? So let's look at the USS Lincoln, and I'll tell you, I'm an old salty Green Beret. So when I hear about deployments that are 8 months, 9 months, my first deployment as a lieutenant, where I was shot, returned to duty, and still fulfilled a deployment, was 18 months long. So when I hear 8 months, 9 months, I'm not playing the world's smallest fiddle. However, for those on the USS Abraham Lincoln, I will complain on their behalf because that is not designed for this length of deployment. Because imagine, if you will, you are on a ship that is older than you, almost as old as me, at least as old as me in terms of its actual design date, when it was signed off in the NDAA of 1981. I was born in 81, so this ship is as old as me. 5,800 personnel are on that ship. It typically carries 5,400 during sea operations, but now at war, they've added additional components, flight deck, munitions officers, etc. So we're talking about a ship that has about 6,000 people. This is not your Disney Utopia of the Seas cruise ship here. The flight deck alone covers 4.5 acres of this ship. So that's not living space. No one's living there. So where does everybody live? In these triple stacked compartment bays, if you will, that are about the size of an average apartment closet. The food. Aircraft carriers go to sea. They set sail with everything, essentially, unless there's an emergency or they got to have something pumped or they got to have the lint trap cleared out because of a laundry room fire, whatever the case may be. They typically set sail with what they need for that mission set in its duration: food, potable water. They can release black water, but they don't have a water.
That's true. When you set sail, if I'm someone on a crew member on one of these ships, I take what I need for 6 months because I assume that's going to be the deployment. If the 6 months are over, the stuff I've brought for myself, that's all gone. And in terms of medication, for example, maybe.
Purification facility on the deck. So when it comes to water, fuel, aircraft fuel, all the things that you need, soap, toilet paper, everything. Imagine this. Right now, the USS Abraham Lincoln is like Gaza at sea.
That doesn't
And
sound
it's
fun.
the U.S. government that's preventing. Actually, I would say it's Iran from preventing supplies getting in because the blockade. It's not right now the blockade that's working against Iran. It's the threat working against the U.S. Navy because we can't get ships out to resupply it in the amount that it needs to continue a mission beyond 6 months to 7 months to 8 months to resupply 6,000 service members, Mario. 6,000. Sharing living conditions where 3 people share a condominium-sized coat closet.
Yeah, I'd hate to sleep with someone, in a bunk room with like 2 other people. What if one of them snores?
So, food, yeah, they're scraping the bottom. They're scraping the bottom. The mess chief has gone to the pantry and has found old beans and a couple of cobwebs, and he's whipping it up, trying to make something happen. In the latest report, you remember this past weekend, Pete Hegseth was down south in his counter cartel convention down south, and a reporter asked him, "Hey, it's great you're coming down south, but what about the USS Lincoln?" And what did Pete Hegseth say? "Oh, fake news. It's not real. Conditions are."
Yeah, that makes me mad. The condition aboard the Lincoln. We've heard from the parents. We've heard from sailors themselves. Look at what they're eating. Conditions are not good there. And to him to just downplay that, it annoys me. It angers me.
Great. What you're hearing is just a couple of disgruntled sailors. It's not true. Well, anybody by now can see that something ain't right in Abilene. Something's going on, and life ain't good on the USS Lincoln. But he also alluded to that everything's fine, but we're addressing the issues. Well, if everything's fine, what issues? And that what we saw in the news yesterday, the deployment of behavioral health specialists to the USS Lincoln. That's only
Behavioral health specialist?
going to add to the personnel on deck. But because the Navy right now is so short in personnel between multiple conflicts, multiple deployments, multiple aircraft carriers, etc., we had to send veterinarians, Navy veterinarians deployed with mental health specialists to assist in medication prescription management because veterinarians can prescribe.
So they're sending veterinarians to do the prescriptions because they can't they don't have any actual doctors to send. So literally sending veterinarians to the aircraft carrier. Oh, that is so terrible.
Medication. So the Navy
Why
is
not
using.
doctors? I don't get it. Why vets?
There's not enough. They are sending psychologists and psychiatrists. There aren't enough to evaluate the medication needs of some of these soldiers that may need enduring medication. So they say, hey, we're deploying. Make sure you bring 6 months worth of your medication, heart blood medication, Flintstone vitamins, whatever it is, whatever you take, bring 6 months worth. Well, then when you run out of that, especially if you're on some type of a peptide or some type of a behavioral health medication like fluoxetine or something like that, because you can be in the service and take manageable mental health meds, you have to have those controlled and managed. Well, the United States Navy is so low on psychiatrists and PsyDs that they've also sent veterinarians.
I think that might be the title of this video. They're sending veterinarians to the USS Lincoln.
Crib 3.
Hey, big dog, I'm back. Hi, Krill. You want to hear the latest? They're sending veterinarians to the USS Lincoln, the aircraft carrier off of Iran. Veterinarians, because they don't have enough doctors to send. Because this aircraft carrier has been deployed for far longer than it should have, more than 6 months. And anyone who had medications before they departed, they had 6 months, and now they need renewal of the prescription. So you need doctors to prescribe it, but they don't have enough doctors. So they're sending veterinarians over to this aircraft carrier that has 6,000 people on it so that they can prescribe medications. That is how short the Navy is of doctors.
To assist with the prescription of management of medications.
First I hear of that.
That's the state of affairs right now. So life ain't good on the USS Lincoln, and the soldiers, the sailors, airmen, and Marines have every reason to be pissed.
You said something earlier that you were.
Yeah, veterinarians do study medicine, and they are able to write prescriptions for humans, but the area of expertise is not humans. It's not what they train for. But it's a stopgate measure. It shouldn't be. On the USS aircraft carrier, there should be actual doctors.
You were away from home for 18 months.
When you have 6,000 people aboard that, like a small city, yeah, 1 or 2 doctors is enough. They need to bring in more.
In a deployment.
That was, you know,
And I just started thinking, like, how does it? Did you have a
Yeah, it's definitely kind of messed up.
family back then, or you were single?
I was not. I did not have a significant other or children. I did not have a family. I was fresh out of West Point, wet behind the ears. Went from West Point to Ranger School, and packed my D bag and deployed, and met my platoon in combat on the footsteps of Fallujah. So
Yeah, he's Special Forces officer, a former Green Beret.
that deployment was supposed to be 12 months. The Iraqi army was licked. I mean, the president, the president of the United States had told us that the mission was accomplished. I just think it's so ironic that George Bush this is the Lincoln.
That photo backfired heavily on Bush in the long term.
It's insane.
It's the same aircraft carrier. And it's also ironic that the aircraft carrier named after his dad is the one coming to replace it. You can't make this shit up, Mario.
Yeah.
So when you consider that 18 months in terms of the weight on an individual, so we were all told 12 months. At that time, deployments were still around 9, maybe 10. Remember, the last war we fought in the Gulf War was 90-day war. You were there and back before the milk in the fridge got old. Now, deployments we're going for a year. Why are we going for a year? I thought we won. Well, we're winning. We're going to win bigger. Oh, okay, we're going to win bigger.
That sounds very Trump.
Go. And then at 12 months, no replacements came, and we're like, are we just leaving? Is it over? Oh, no. Y'all are staying. Oh, how long? We'll be home before Christmas. And then at that point, you're like, okay, it's August, September, October, November. That's 15 and a half months. What? But we were told, but it's going to end the war. You guys are going to be part of the surge that ends the war. We beat them here. We beat them here. You guys are going to go into Sadr City to clear out the
It can really suck to work in the military at times.
Jaysh al-Mahdi, the army of Mahdi, to bring together the government, and it's going to be great. We're going to win. So we're like, okay, there's purpose. There's reason. Yeah, okay. And then December came, and the people replacing us came in, and the people replacing us came in said, we're being deployed here. Oh, so you're not replacing us? So I guess we're going home and leaving this battle space. Goodbye, Iraqi partners. Goodbye, Iraqi police. Goodbye, Mosul SWAT, the Iraqi SWAT that we supported. Goodbye, everybody. Oh no! You're not leaving either. You're staying until February, March. The suicide rate at the time in my own unit, 2nd Battalion of the 1st.
I shouldn't be laughing at this.
Of the Stryker Brigade, the 2nd of the Army's deployed Stryker brigades under the Brigade Combat Team construct at the time. We had more deaths by suicide rather than combat. And most of those suicides, with the exception of 2 in our entire unit, happened in that last 90 days. Because you get to a point where you lose faith.
Yeah, you get closer and closer to the breaking point. So yes, of course you're going to have the most suicides in the last 90 days. If they'd gone another 90 days, they would have even more.
In your leadership, you lose belief in the mission. You lose
I don't know if he's allowed to say that. He didn't give a number.
sight of.
He said all but 2. So it's a lot more than 2. You can assume that much. And they had more deaths from that than they did from the fighting. So you could look at how much deaths they had in fighting and see more suicides. So it's at least more than 2 in the last 90 days.
What your purpose is. And that weighs heavy on a service member who is fighting a war. And I can tell you, life on the USS Lincoln is busy. Not only are they sending out ships and missiles, they're also defending, which is very difficult on an aircraft carrier. There, you remember, you've seen in some of the old some of the old movies, general quarters and then battle stations, right? Imagine doing that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for 259 days. So it weighs on the psyche, and that is real. And that's something that when you go into a war and you consider the troops you have available, Troop 2 task troops available, standard second lieutenant level military planning.
No matter how much endurance someone has, no matter how tough they are, you keep them at a state of complete tension months on end, bottled up in an aircraft carrier. Yeah, that's going to take a huge mental toll.
In which this administration did not do or did not listen to, you have to consider the reality that the war may go longer than you thought. Napoleon taught us that.
Also, one reason it's tough for soldiers is they feel their life is wasting away. They have a wife back home that they haven't seen in almost a year. They maybe don't have a girlfriend or significant other, and they feel like they're wasting their youth away in a steel cabin off the coast of Iran.
How?
So that, I mean, yeah, that's a great question, Mario.
How
It's one
much-
of those things that people often dismiss when you consider the length of deployments. It's not just about hardship. It's about purpose. It's about mission. It's about the task at hand. What are we doing? Imagine sitting in the chow hall of the USS Lincoln, and your tray has a strip of meat that looks like it was picked up off the floor, a little thing of beans, and maybe some canned peas. It's worse than prison food. And
Oh, that's rough. Yes, worse than prison food.
the news you get is the president of the United States just said, it's not that bad. It's not, suck it up. It's not that bad.
Yes, I'm even more mad at Trump for saying that. Yeah, saying there's no issues on the U.S. Lincoln. That it was fake news that there were any, if the conditions were bad on the USS Lincoln. That annoyed me. Saying it's fake news.
You're like, ugh. Or the Secretary of War said, as he's chilling out down in South America, getting drunk. I mean, did you see the Governor Newsom out of California is now mandating that Pete Hegseth get a drug test because of his erratic behavior during the press conference? Have you seen that?
No, I didn't see it. No.
Yeah, look at
Yeah, so maybe he is a drunkard. That's the rumor going around, isn't it?
up. Gavin Newsom
Was Hegseth
calling.
acting
He
erratic
was
in that press conference? I
It
didn't
was
watch it.
erratic. He was all over the place. He was like the classic cocaine lipping and like just he was just all over the place. And for a man that has a history of drug abuse and alcohol abuse, you can't not ask.
Oh, really?
the
He
question.
has. He has a history of drug
yeah.
and alcohol abuse.
Yes, his own mother said he would not be a good Secretary of Defense.
That's sad. That's actually very worrying too. That this man is our Secretary of Defense.
These are
Where
all
was
facts.
he? Where was he in the South? Do you remember what it was called? The
Yeah, he
like
was
in the jungle
I
somewhere.
wrote it down because it was an interesting. Yeah,
I agree with you completely there that we should change that back to Secretary of Defense. Secretary of War is just stupid. You want, the ideal is defense. You don't want to be the one starting wars. It actually should have been a warning sign to us all that Trump changed it from Secretary of Defense to Secretary of War, given how he's acted in terms of going after Greenland, going after Venezuela, going after Cuba, going after Iran, supporting the war in Ukraine. He's been all about war this second term.
Pete Hegseth is wrapped up in, and you can read this in the. This was in the Independent, but other news agencies picked it up. It's world news. Pete Hegseth
Panama.
wrapped up an international trip to Panama, where he spoke at the America's Counter Cartel Coalition conference. That's a mouthful. In Panama City, he also visited the guided missile destroyer, the USS Gridley, and there's also an exercise going on, Panamax 2026. I'm familiar with that exercise because 7th Special Forces Group participates in it. It's a Global South exchange. But just imagine being on the USS Lincoln or the USS George Bush underway, or excuse me, that's already that's been there with the George Washington that's on its way to replace it. And oh, by the way, the George Washington, it ain't a spring chicken either. So we've got a bunch of aircraft carriers named after dead presidents being funded by a whole bunch of dead presidents by the tune of $400 billion, as in, Washington, Lincoln, and Grant. So this is the war of dead presidents, where we're just replacing old aircraft carriers with old aircraft carriers. So it's interesting that when you have the Secretary of
A legacy military.
War in Panama City visiting another Navy ship when he hasn't come to see you, and he and the President of the United States are saying that it's not that bad. Just imagine the gut punch in morale of that crew on the USS Lincoln.
This one,
And
the
that's
Aaron
not
Panos
something
just
to underrate.
posted.
It's worrying if you're on the crew of that ship. The president's saying it's not that bad. Maybe they're going to keep you there another 6 months.
Messages on the USS Boxer. A message: family member here, family and friends on the Boxer have been out so long and aren't receiving care packages. Women have run out of feminine hygiene items due to no resupplies happening. They pack enough and some extra for the deployment, but not for all the extension, no port calls. They were begging us to send them extra pads and tampons so they could share them out.
And,
But then
and many
none of our
many of
packages
them
were
are having
delivered.
to use toilet paper to meet that suited purpose.
Oh, you knew
These
about
are
this
Americans. Oh, this is well known. We've seen this in situations like this. This is not new in terms of when rations run low. But yeah, it's been reported for quite a while. So the U.S. So let's talk about that, because that's a whole different ball game in terms of aircraft carriers. So you've got the Lincoln, and here's the other thing: the president nor Pete Hegseth have ever said that the Lincoln is going to come home. All they've said is we're sending the George Washington to the Pacific. There's the assumption that the
Yes, the assumption, but
George Washington is going to replace the Lincoln. But
there's
one
no
has
way
said
they'll
that
keep the
yet.
Lincoln there.
Oh, I thought that too at 13, 14, 15, 16 months of combat deployment, and it turned into 18. I thought that would never happen. In fact, a bunch of us were like, this is unconstitutional. And you know what they did? They changed the law. Like, oh, yeah, well, it was unconstitutional. We're just going to change the law. They changed the law,
What law?
to keep us. Because at the time, under the authorization and the use of military force into Iraq, the duration of deployment could not exceed 365 days. Because then in doing so, under the modern military construct of personnel assignments, etc., that place where you are for greater than 1 year then becomes your permanent address of station. So what they did was, after 365 days, breaking the 12-month paradigm, on day 366, they changed all of our permanent addresses to the APOAE address of where we were stationed in Mosul, and then they made that our address. So all of us that were also getting basic allowance for housing from our duty station all the way up until that point, it dropped to the rate of Mosul, Iraq. What's the rate of the basic allowance for housing in Iraq? I'll tell you, it's not much. It's $350 a day.
so not only do they get deployed over a year, but as soon as you hit that year mark, you get a huge nerf in your pay. That's just great.
So I don't mean 350. I mean $3.50. So when you look at that in terms of the bureaucratic administrative procedures of the military also make that harder as a layer of stress upon a service member. But I have every hope and I have every consideration that the administration is going to replace the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN 72, with USS George Washington. I pray. But we haven't heard that yet. No one in the administration has confirmed that. Everybody's assuming it. We also have the USS George H.W.
Yeah, the aircraft carrier coming in could just join the Lincoln to resume bombing of Iran together for another few months.
Bush that's out there with the Lincoln, that when the Washington comes in, the Bush ain't going home. And that's a 25-year-old ship. We're going to see those problems start. But then there's the USS Boxer. The USS Boxer is an aircraft carrier, but it's what's called a lightning carrier. It's under the Marine Corps. It's like a mini carrier. And conditions on the Boxer are even worse. It's like going from
Yikes.
your packed minivan and living out of your van for a year and downgrading to a Yugo. I mean, the USS Boxer is tiny. Look at pictures of the USS Boxer at sea. It's so small on its flight deck that the jets literally hang off the deck. The wings literally are off the deck. It's so tight on that.
Here's the picture of that.
Conditions on the Boxer are even worse.
Stop. Okay. My head. Look at that. Yeah, the aircrafts, their tails hang off the deck.
On the USS Boxer, it is tiny, and man,
You're right.
There's a lot of Marines on there.
Let's look at a picture now. I can show this to the audience, Stephanie.
The
It is very
USS
small.
Boxer is a lightning carrier. It's an aircraft carrier, but it's tiny, respectively.
That's worrying.
It's what's-
This is the state of the U.S. Navy.
That right there is what we called the old flat top. You see how flat that is? I mean, you could level a 2x4 off that runway. That is a flat top. So when you consider the size of that, consider that on the USS Boxer is what currently the U.S. Marine Corps 5th Amphibious Response Group, the ARG, is afloat on. Remember back in the day, in the early days of this conflict, we heard about the 31st.
Helicopters on one side, planes squished in on the other, could barely take off, and wow. I guess maybe they move the helicopters even more to the side when planes take off.
Expeditionary Unit afloat, the USS Tripoli. That went back. This came out. So these folks have been out there for months as well. So we're going to start to see the Boxer having problems. We're going to start to see the Bush having issues. And remember, the USS George Washington hit the water in 1992. It was designed in 82. It's a 44-year-old ship. I mean, we're replacing old parts with old parts. They're going to be compounding problems. It's coming. And so far, the administration...
And you have to think, these soldiers on the ship are eventually going to get back to port, and they're going to tell stories once they get back to port. And I don't think those stories are going to be good for Trump.
Of my country, the U.S. administration has done a horrible job of providing the services with the means to effectively execute this conflict, number one. But number two, what's the objective? What's the objective? Because if you're a commander... What did you just hear yesterday from the President of the United States? Just yesterday? What did Donald Trump say at his little? I
showed you earlier. He said that we won the war, that we control the straits, that complete fiction.
Talking to the where was he at? He was in Long Island. He was in Long Island.
I'm watching him. Okay.
So Donald Trump, at his speech in Long Island yesterday, he stated, the United States will declare the Strait of Hormuz a U.S. territory.
Yes, that's what he said.
So if you're the 7th Fleet commander, the U.S. Central Command commander...
That must be so despair-inducing for those people on that aircraft carrier.
Admiral Brad Cooper, how do you do that? What? That's a mission shift. I thought we were destroying their missiles. I thought we were going to get nukes. I thought we were going to do some regime change. I thought we were going to... block the strait. Now we're going to declare it a U.S. territory. How do you do that? I don't know. Open up your How to Screw Up a War 101 manual. I don't know.
You took that from me. That was the Art of Fucking Up. That was a new book that Trump's going to write, from the art of the deal to the art of the fuck up.
No, I was going to
I think that book would be very popular if he wrote it, especially on the left.
say that there's actually a Department of Defense circular training manual called How to Screw Up a War.
Yeah. So when you say this is going to be a forever war, and a longer war, do you expect it to go back to the kinetic action we saw in February, March, or you think it'll be more of a tit for tat, limited strikes here and there, kind of what we saw in the last month?
Well, unfortunately, I believe, and this is, from all the facts that we've talked about, what's there, let's talk about, my assessment, opinion, if you will, that we're going to see escalatory phases that are going to get deadlier. And here is why I think that. I think that the rhetoric, the defiance, if you will, from Tehran has pretty much said to every of Trump's threats, bring it. All right, old man. Here's a Lego movie. Bring it. They've been very defiant. Donald Trump is losing the vigor and the enthusiasm from this war from even his most war hawkish base. His cabinet is literally bleeding out of people leaving it. And it's not over the reflecting pond. It's this war. So when you think about that in terms of what he's facing, the president of the United States has to do.
I think that this right here is why our press secretary just resigned.
Something. He's got some conflicting military advice. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, has said, we need an off-ramp. We need a way out. We cannot sustain this. Well, you've got Admiral Brad Cooper, U.S. Central Command commander, saying, bring it. Give us more missiles. We will continue this war. We've got targets for days. The joint prioritized targeting list is we could do it, sir. Send us the munitions. Well, the U.S. Central Command commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, as a geographic combatant command joint task force commander, doesn't work for the chairman. The chairman is just an advisor. Chairman doesn't command anything. So Admiral Brad Cooper has a direct line to the president. Hey, sir, yeah, send me those B-61 gravity nukes. Send those to me. I'll use them. I got targets for days. Pickaxe Mountain, I'm ready. We have right now still the 75th Ranger Regiment, a brigade of the 82nd Airborne Division, elements of 1st Special Forces Command, and elements of Special Forces Green Berets, my former brethren.
There's definitely entourage of Trump that still want war.
And Delta Force and Navy SEALs and augmentee components from the Joint Special Operations Command, all there. We also have our presence in Iraq, where we know right now, this is a fact, U.S. forces are advising, assisting, and preparing Kurdish forces from Iranian Kurdish elements in exile to go back into Iran. We know this. So,
yeah, even no matter what happens in the real war, that between outright war between the U.S. military and Iran, there's going to be the proxy war. They're going to try to do an insurgency, an ISIS inside of Iran, and that's going to cause a lot of deaths and destruction. They're going to try to foment a civil war in Iran.
This conflict, and again, I want to preface this with, this is Tony's assessment. I do not advocate for this course of action. I do not think that the continuation of this war is a good idea, and I do not think that Donald Trump can achieve the victory that he thinks he will. However,
I agree with all of that.
This is where I think it is going, based on what we have heard from the president, what we have heard from the Secretary of War.
I agree that all the pieces are lined up in the direction that Anthony Aguilar is saying, yes, to more war. But I think that this train towards more war, it might be derailed by this here. It's called diesel. Well, now the crack spread is the highest, just hit 94 a barrel. That means the price of, for example, diesel is the price of oil plus $94 a barrel. It's insane. Right there, you see, crack spread, 94, gasoline, 50. That means we're heading towards a diesel shortage right now. And by the way, this will drag up oil once you start getting refinery capacity back online. In order to get the crack spread down, they will start making a lot more diesel, and that will need a lot of oil, and oil will surge. But for now, it's just this right here. It's about to break up and go higher. We're going to get into shortage territories, into prices that's impossible to hide. Yeah, that I think might derail this train towards more war.
What we have seen from the geographic combatant commander and the commanders there. This war will continue. We will see hostility and escalation that will be more deadly that we have yet to see. That will be, in a way, ground-based. And I'm telling you, when we defeated ISIS in Mosul, and ISIS crossed the Fishkabur Bridge, the bridge that connects Iraq to Syria in the north, and we all thought, they ran, not our problem anymore. And then ISIS renamed themselves ISIL. Remember, it was the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. We pushed them out of Iraq, so they couldn't claim Iraq anymore. So they changed their name to the Islamic State of the Levant, of Syria and the Levant. And we're like, name change. And Obama was like, we can't let them get away with that. So we started sending in drones. Sound familiar? And then that didn't defeat ISIS. So we sent in ground troops. And the ground troops that we sent in went from 400 to Master Sergeant Wheeler, Delta Force operator, was one of the first killed on the ground.
Yeah, even while the Syria civil war was going on, U.S. had troops on the ground, specifically in the oil-rich region of Syria, controlling the output of oil. They might try to do that, but I think that Iran will defend its oil fields better than Assad defended Syrian oil fields.
Where we thought, no way we're going to have boots on the ground. Well, you can hide boots on the ground until Americans start dying on the ground. So I see that this conflict will escalate.
I think that Trump pulling out of the Iran deal in 2018 set a trap for him. It forced him into this war in a way, because Obama's deal was really good. And for him to get a deal better than Obama's, significantly better than Obama's, that he could declare as victory, it was just too high a bar to get. And so he felt he had to go to war instead. That was one of the pressure points Israel used. And as soon as he backed out of that deal, it sort of left him with, it was either war or another nuclear deal. And another nuclear deal would have made him look stupid, and he didn't want to look stupid.
I see that I believe that it's going to draw in greater regional involvement, both directly and indirectly. Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, Turkey, Yemen.
If Iran seriously wanted nukes, it could have gone in nukes, especially after the nuclear deal expired. The fatwa against nukes by a supreme leader was a big deal in Iran. It would have been anyone in the military that tried to maybe go behind the back of everyone else and do nukes would have been tried for heresy, or I don't know how it works, but there would have been consequences. You need to reverse that fatwa before you can make nukes in Iran. So I don't think it was possible for Iran to become nuclear under the previous supreme leader, the one we killed.
The UAE directly. Let's not forget Lebanon, Israel. Let's not forget Russia, China. So I think that this is going to further escalate. And one of the things that I did, and maybe it will help the audience to understand why I think that way. I think that way from my years of experience, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. But let's consider through history. I think
the thing is, the shortage of jet fuel and diesel fuel, that'll complicate things for the military, especially if they want to resume any type of military operations. They're going to have to steal it from the civilian sector and create all kinds of problems there. And that'd be very unpopular.
I think I touched on this last time we talked, Mario, about a revolution in military affairs, right? Iran has been preparing for this. Have you ever seen this?
The B whatever bomber? No, the RQ-170. No.
It looks like the B-2 Spirit. This was the RQ-170 Sentinel drone. First of its kind, first of its name, first of its kind, protector of the realm. The RQ-170 Sentinel. The United States designed this in 2011. A drone that looks a lot different than all these other drones. Different than the Reaper, different than the Triton.
What's special about it?
And guess what happened? Iran shot it down in 2011. Right here. They shot it down. And they reverse engineered it. And then when this war kicked off, what did we see coming at U.S. forces as an asymmetric drone capability that we had not seen before? Not in Ukraine, not in Iraq, not by the U.S., not by any other nation. We saw this, right? Looks, in terms of drone development, looks a lot like this. Like this. And now, what did the United States just develop to combat this?
Lucas.
The Shahid? This. By God, does that not...
Yes, clearly the United States copied Iran's homework in the Lucas.
So this war is not winding down. We are approaching a revolution of military affairs that the United States was not prepared or equipped.
Thing is, he might be looking at it from the military side in terms of, and from all the indications he sees going on in the Gulf in terms of, arming and training the Kurds, he might be right. But this war is not popular in the United States, and its popularity is falling by the day. Diesel prices are hitting all-time highs. This United States is still a democracy. Trump cannot endlessly wage a war that's against the vast majority of the public, that the vast majority of the public opposes. He will be pressured to stop it, especially with the midterms coming. I don't think anything's happening before the midterms. That would just, unless Trump is ready to commit political suicide on the part of Republicans. After the midterms, there's going to be, diesel prices will be higher, support for the war will be even lower. Will Trump really want to double down? We'll have to see.
And the reason it concerns me in terms of a revolution of military affairs, because of the way we are fighting and losing. And
I am glad, too, that the U.S. empire is being eroded, just because it's been such a destabilizing force. Like, in Iran, obviously. Syria also, we backed ISIS. Well, the Mossad and CIA were arming ISIS. It's funny, even while the U.S. military was sometimes fighting ISIS, the CIA and Mossad were arming it on the other hand. It's such a mess. So yes, I am glad that U.S. empire is facing reality a little bit.
And why that deeply concerns me, Mario, is because when you look through the 5 revolutions of military affairs throughout the world, the world's history of modern warfare, the first one was the creation of the modern state, the Treaty of Westphalia, the 30 Years' War that ended it. That came to a treaty and a change. Then we had the second RMA in the world, the French Revolution. And what brought that to a end? When Napoleon Bonaparte overthrew the Directory in the coup d'etat and established the French consulate. War, treaty, change. And then we had the Industrial Revolution. Well, that doesn't sound like war. Well, guess what? The Industrial Revolution and the technology.
Oh, Industrial Revolution enabled war on a scale the world had never seen before. You can pump out planes, tanks, weaponry, guns on a massive scale.
From steam to steel from coal to oil brought about the end of the first Opium Wars. I don't know if people remember those happening. War, change, treaty, change. Then there was World War I, ended with the Treaty of Versailles, brought industrial capacity to the way we fight. Then there was World War II and the advent of the nuclear weapons, ended by the Treaty of Peace in Europe and the Treaty of San Francisco in Japan.
Thing is, wars always end usually with a treaty, unless you have rare case complete surrender. And even then, you get a treaty.
And signed on September 7th, my birthday. Awesome. And we saw global war. We are seeing what I assess to be the 6th global RMA, where asymmetric warfare facing very conventional war, where you have conventional militaries like the United States trying to play catch up to the asymmetric. This is asymmetric. The Shahed drone is asymmetric. Trying to play catch up.
Change.
Right? I think
The change of warfare is going to allow all these smaller groups, smaller countries as well.
And the United States doesn't have a manufacturing base, so it can't adapt quickly to a new paradigm. It has legacy military. All these aircraft carriers that are 4 years old, it can't just abandon them or swap them out. It's tied to them. It can't adapt to this new paradigm of war as fast as countries that don't have an established military.
Well, to realize, like, holy shit, like the Houthis, holy shit, like what Iran did, look what the Ukrainians did, look what the Houthis did, look what Hezbollah did. We could do it as well.
Yes. Which is why I think that this war is nowhere near over. You could call it, I mean, people call Afghanistan the forever war. It's been, it started and ended in my lifetime, so I wouldn't call it forever. I don't feel that old. So you could call it a forever war, sure.
It was a long war.
But in terms of it ending anytime soon, no. And in terms of the ending or the conditions getting better,
I think that there will be a pause. The developments in the oil market will force it, or a radical escalation in terms of China getting involved. But I don't think China is going to let the Strait of Hormuz be closed another year. It'll get involved before that, militarily if it has to. But that's assuming that Trump is insane, and even as diesel prices like triple, he decides to continue the war. Yeah. All types of shit would break. But my assumption is still Trump is going to cave before the midterms because of this. It's going up. Anyway, this will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch and kick our Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.